Okay, welcome to the Town of Austining Legislative Meeting for, executive work session. You said, I want you to know. Anyway, sorry. Welcome to the Town of Austining work session. Yay, for July 18th, 2023. Please stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call. Okay, I'm here.
I'm here.
Do we have to do that? All right.
For the record, all board members are present.
All right. My brain's on legislative meeting for some reason today. Just know that.
You're allowed.
All right. All right. So before we get started, let me just read a few announcements and then we'll get going with our agenda. So for anybody who had difficulty, the county during this week's storms, the county in coordination with the New York State Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services is conducting a preliminary damage assessment survey for the recent rainfall flooding. It will provide crucial data to support a potential request for federal recovery assistance. And this is for private people, for homeowners and businesses. So please report any damages you have experienced by filling out the survey. You can find it on our Facebook page. You can find it on our update last week. And if you are already using another damage report intake tool, please continue to go that route. But one way or the other, please get the results to Westchester County. It's meant to collect information for federal assistance. And if they get enough reports, then we can become eligible for FEMA aid to our homeowners. All right, on to happier things. Join us at the Lewis Hingle Park Waterfront Park for our River Jam concert series curated by Mike Risco Music, who will anyway, the concert will be I'm gonna cover. All right, this week. Sorry, this is a little disorganized here. Anyway, KJ Danaher is playing. Our Austining Zone KJ is playing. And if you've never seen KJ, you should definitely come down because she's amazing. The food trucks open at 5. The concert starts at 7. Should not be missed. And hopefully the weather will hold out. We want to thank our sponsors who've made this event possible. So great thank you goes out to Sing Sing Kill Brewery, Mike Risco Music School, New York Presbyterian Hospital, the Greater Austining Chamber of Commerce, the Village of Austining Recreation and Parks Department, Grace Lane Kennels, Briarcliff Pediatric Dentistry, Matero Fine Jewelry, and the Schatz Realty Group. We thank them for partnering with us and for their commitment to our community. The town of Austining is seeking individuals to join our Board of Ethics, as we will be talking about. The meetings are held twice a year, and they will take place either here at 16 Croton Avenue or other locations as determined by the board. And there will be other sessions for handling any complaints and or requests for advisory opinions. Tomorrow, July 19th, 2023, from 7:30 to 9, please join the Sing Sing Kill Brewery for Green Drinks Austining at the Sing Sing Kill Brewery Tap Room to showcase sustainability achievements connected with environmental leaders and inspire positive change together. See you there. Tomorrow, July 19th, from 7 to 8:30 p.m., the Summer Acoustic Music Series at Market Square will be presenting Sundead, New Age, another excellent group. Save the date for the captivating evening of Cocktails in History on July 20th, 2023, from 7 to 8:30 p.m. as Austining's town historian Carolyn Curvan and mixologist Sophia McGlue present. Don't even. Anyway, don't miss the Water Lily Sunvent on the Hudson. next Sunday. All right, this one sounds fun. The Austining Arts, I'm just gonna say it, the Austining Arts Council is at Cedar Lane Park, and they're going to have people dressing in the period pieces and the period costumes for artists to come and draw and enjoy. There will be OAC members available to help new and young students to sketch as well. Join the Bethany Arts Community from July 21st to 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. as Bethany Arts Center celebrates their first year participating in the Upstate Art Weekend. Enjoy local music, open exhibition, the grounds, and studio tours. Join the Hudson Valley Books for Humanity on July 21st at 7 p.m. for a reading and conversation with novelist Marina Kramer. Explore the themes of refugee survival, the search for a home, and 1950s Soviet Ukraine history. We're thrilled to announce the upcoming ENU Action Day on Saturday, July 29th at Nelson Park. This exciting event promises a day filled with over 20 different physical activities, live music, fun, and fitness. That's a really fun day. They fill the park with all kinds of different activities for young people, from music to, that's a good thing to go to. Anyway, and finally, join the Bethany Arts community to learn woodworking techniques and create a tournament-sized chessboard using wood and epoxy led by instructor Hardy Klunder on June 29th, really? All right, from 10 to 1 p.m. All right, that's enough of that. On to our work session. We're going to talk about that. Anyway. All right. The first thing we're going to talk about is appointments to our ethics committee. We are down a couple of members. They, for one reason or another, have moved on. And it's time to fill the board. So one thing that we've looked for in past years has been somebody who understands the law, somebody who's held a position of management or some things like that. But really, any community member can apply as long as they don't have a record. Yeah, there's that. And all community members are encouraged to put in an application. What I did want to talk about was, do you have any parameters that you're interested in, and any other parameters that we want to look at for our ethics board? It's not a very active board. Thankfully, we've been pretty good. But when they do get, a complaint from the community, they really need to sit down and take a close look, and, it can't be close friends and family of ours or.
Yeah, like, is there any kind of like background that you guys are looking for, or anything specifically that you guys want to see in, applicants? And I know number one being that they can't be related to anybody in the town or the village, correct? I think can't be family members or anything, but anything besides that, because we're going to be working on putting the post together.
What are the
Listen.
residence requirements? You
That
said
They need to be
town,
from
village.
we prefer unincorporated, but we are willing to accept people from other areas if we don't have any applicants from
So
there.
it's safe to say the town of Austin residents?
Yeah, so all town of Austining residents. So we've had from Briarcliff and we've had from the village. It's an all-encompassing board.
What's the minimum age to join? 18? I mean, legal
Yeah,
adult,
you'd have to
obviously,
be a
right?
legal
So
adult. I would hope they'd be a little more experienced than 18, but absolutely.
you have to make sure some.
We
you never know,
usually
18
like
girls
to
are
have one
for sure.
or two people with some sort of legal background so they can kind of wade through, accusations and.
Who are the current members now?
Martha, do you have that?
Is it,
Okay.
hold on, well, is
You're on
it,
there? Okay.
yeah, is it, I'm curious if the website is current. So right now we have Daniel Collado, Richard Sauls, and Michael Turco.
Yes,
Those are all three current.
and I think one of those is considering
All right, so there's 2 vacancies, it says.
2, possibly 3. So yes.
Okay, okay.
So there's room.
Then there's alternates also. Is there alternates available?
There's no alternates on that board. Thankfully it's an inactive board. but
It definitely should be
it
filled.
should
It's an
be
important
filled,
board,
you know, every board should be filled, and that one.
at least to oversee the guidelines every year that the town has to make sure they're being followed or they need to be changed and updated.
Could we maybe just have a short discussion of what kinds of cases they oversee so that we can think of people we could, suggest might want to do it, or anybody listening to this will say like, oh, okay, I think I could do a good job there. Like, what are some of the kinds of things they oversee?
They oversee complaints against supervisors, making decisions that they feel were, or, you know, unethical, other employees that they feel that they were going beyond the scope or going beyond the scope of their, well, just
Position.
going beyond. That they, you know, that they really didn't break the law, but it was not, they were not acting in a manner that would be expected of a person in their position.
So
Go ahead.
I'd be happy to just chime
Good.
in.
Whatever, you're more familiar. with
I
it.
actually, I have the code pulled up right now.
Perfect.
It does require that members be residents of the town of Austining, and it also says that one member cannot be a lawyer. So if we already have 3 members that are lawyers, then, you know, we one of the new members would have to not be a lawyer. That's, I guess they want to have some level of diversity, which is interesting. And then
Coming from the lawyer.
also in the code, which is to Jen's point, there is a whole section that delves into the powers and duties and the types of complaints that would come before the ethics board. Generally, I think it deals with the conflict of interest. If someone, and that can either be through the town code. There's also under state law, there are provisions that govern municipal officials. So that's generally the circumstances under which it comes up. But that's certainly something that when we do post for the position, we can include all of that information, both the town code and the applicable state law, with the information so that people can take a look at it. But in addition to what the supervisor said, I think it really just goes to whether or not if there's an accusation or a question as to whether someone who is affiliated in town employment or a representative in any capacity has acted in a way that deviates from the conflict of interest rules, or has done anything else that could be considered to be an ethical violation. Like the supervisor also said, we've been very fortunate that this board does not have to convene very often. So it's hard to say with any sort of certainty, but there, what types of situations could arise, but there are certainly guidelines to what is expected to be followed of town employees and officers. And therefore, I think anyone who would be interested in being on the board could decipher what types of issues could potentially then be brought before that board if they were to be considered to have been violated, which hopefully doesn't happen very frequently, if at all.
What you're reading, is that found on the town website? Like how it's someone?
It's the town code. I think the town
Town
code
code.
is accessible from the town website.
Okay.
I have looked at this section before, so when we started the conversation, I was able to bring it up very quickly.
Okay,
But we can certainly make that more accessible in the context of trying to find new board members so that they understand the greater scope of what is asked of them. The other thing that Martha brought up, did you say they couldn't be a family member of a town or village employee? I don't know that the village aspect of it would really matter. We do have a decent amount of overlap through intermunicipal agreements and whatnot. So I think that's something we should talk about, but technically, just for the record, the ethics board, their jurisdiction is only with respect to town employees. I think if anyone had a concern about a village employee, even if they were affiliated with the town through an IMA with the village, then that would end up under the village's jurisdiction. But that's something we can talk about further because it's actually an interesting and probably a little bit of a complicated thought. So I just wanted to bring that up too. That's all.
Thank you. Thoughts? Okay, good, thank you. All right. Sorry, just wanted to bring that up. All right, moving on. We had a storm. We took a lot of damage, not as much as Orange County, thank God. But you know, during this last storm, it became very apparent that some of our flood mitigation techniques are outdated or not handling the capacity that is now coming down regularly. You know, these 1,000-year storms are coming, you know, every few years. So and we have some specific areas that are taking damage. We have some specific residences that take damages. We have some specific roads that take damages. And we have some knowledgeable people here to talk with us about that. You're jealous of wherever Paul is? Okay. So I guess we'll start with our biggest problem that we had during this last round. And I'll let Paul start with that one. So are you available, Paul? Can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear?
Yes. Thank you.
Good evening, Supervisor. Good evening, Town Board. So biggest with respect to need for immediate response, I think was on Old Albany Post Road. Superintendent of Highways called me the day after the storm to let me know about a washout that happened on that road. Just for a little flashback, that is a road that endured major stormwater damage during Hurricane.
Floyd or Sandy?
No, maybe it was Sandy. It was about 7 or 8 years ago, and with the finance department, we made probably over $800,000 in FEMA applications for that Old Albany Post Road reconstruction, and we essentially repaired about 5 areas on that road and enhanced about an additional 5 along that corridor to make that more formidable during rain events like this. And the road, and then we reconstructed the entire road, and it was a pretty beneficial project, for to say the least, for the residents that lived on that road, because that road was borderline becoming impassable. So we basically reconstructed it in its entirety, and it's held up pretty well during some heavy rains. This last rain, there was an apparent failure of one of the catch basin systems, which caused some jumping of the curb of some of the stormwater, and it eventually washed out the area that was one of the areas that we had reconstructed. The structural components of the reconstruction project were all intact. So what the immediate response was, so we didn't lose any more of the road, was to fortify what was washed out with some form work in K-Crete, which was completed yesterday and today, and they're going to be back tomorrow doing some slope restoration and finishing the backfill, seeding it, and then some curb restoration, along with the superintendent's efforts out there to kind of reestablish what was there, and to make sure that the stormwater doesn't jump the curb anymore and go into the catch basin as it should. When we're all done with that, we might want to sit down and consider maybe some additional drainage in that area, but it's a complex area, so that's something we can talk about. I spoke with a contractor today. We don't really foresee a project between the contractor and then some engineering services that we're utilizing with this project to exceed $50,000. We're documenting everything for some, hopeful reimbursement aid that we'll receive through FEMA if they come through with that. Just to give you some key context, the last aforementioned FEMA project on that road that we started maybe 8 or 9 years ago and completed about 8 or 9 years ago with the FEMA application and about 7 years ago with the actual construction. I think Dale just finished the administrative paperwork for the final drawdown this year. So it's an arduous process, but it's still well worth it because it is money going to where it should go. It takes some doing, to say the least. But we have our ducks in order, and we'll keep our paperwork in order for hopeful reimbursement what we're spending now in that area. I also talked about some areas. I can't see who's in the room there. I'm not sure if the superintendent's with us this evening, but is Pete there?
He is.
Oh, then I won't steal his fire. I'll let him talk about the other areas off Morningside.
All right, and for those of you who don't know, the Old Albany Post Road is kind of perched above the Croton River and on a cliff, and it has been interesting and challenging, I'm sure, for the engineer and for our team to keep that on the hill, and they've been doing a fantastic job rebuilding it over the last decade, and it was very upsetting to me that parts of it were trying to leave again. So, but I'm glad to hear you've already started the restoration, at least the emergency restoration.
Okay.
Thank you, Pete.
Okay. So we've had about 7 spots in the town or locations that the July 9th storm hit. Probably about 4 or 5 basements were flooded. And one business on North State took a pretty good hit. And, you know, of course, what Paul just talked about on the west side of Old Albany Post Road. So some of these have, you know, been there a while. Also retaining wall, about 30 feet in Dale Cemetery off of Marble Place. So some of these issues have been there. Some are state related. We're already working on North State Road, trying to open up a culvert inlet. We've been there the last 2 days. So we're going to continue with that, and with you know, additional cleaning. We do have our vac oil that we rent over the last 2 years. That was just scheduled for a regular catch basin cleaning, and we've been going out with that until now, until the storm has hit, because with vacations and everything, we're a little shorthanded. But so, and as the supervisor mentioned, tomorrow I'm going to meet with the representatives from Emergency Service and FEMA, and we're going to take them to the locations that you know, got flooded and got hit pretty good from the 9th storm.
And I did see that, you know, I know that right after all the flooding happened, you were visiting with the residents, and you were at the businesses that, you know, the building that houses Crown Trophy and Plumbing. Which one?
Correct. Yeah.
Yeah,
Carrying Walsh.
Carrying Walsh.
Carrying Walsh.
And
Yes.
it turns out the Taekwondo school across also took some water into the building.
I didn't know that, but
Right,
okay.
yeah, I went
Mhm.
around Saturday and talked to some of the businesses
Okay.
to see who,
Mhm.
and you know, that same drainage system flooded some houses, came around the corner, really got into the building of the Carrion Walsh, and Crown Trophy caused a lot of property damage over there. Went around the culvert that they've been working on trying to open up. Across the street is the martial arts school, and went around to Buck Johnson Park and took all of our wood chips and some of the area along the stream. So Pete will be taking them to some of those locations, and Ryder Park took some damage as well. All the water came down and washed out where it goes under the park road by the playground and through the pond, which has been taking fill from these storms for quite a few years and isn't really as retention as it used to be. And as it came out, it took one of the wall for the road on the far side behind the ball field. So we've got some the reason I wanted to talk about it today is to talk about the things that happened during this storm and to look at how we can mitigate them and to look at some of the grant programs that maybe are available. I think there's a short window here to find some of the flood mitigation grants to try to fund some, at least a study, if not some assistance in these flood areas. And I just wanted the board to be aware of the damage that we took. And, you know, Pete has some areas that he's been looking at for a while. Mario and the Parks Department have some areas that they've walked over the years with Dana. I think Paul has some ideas as well. So I think it's time for us to really sit down, look at it's very expensive. Any flood mitigation and all of these systems are very expensive. But I think it's time we really sit down, look at them, map them out and see what we can do to improve. These storms aren't going to get easier than, you know, and I think they're going to be increasing. So what we can do to really literally mitigate these dangers for our residents and for our businesses.
In light of that, I think that we need to try to get this survey out, you know, communicated out to people as much as possible so that if we are gonna start doing, you know, repairs or whatever, we can maybe recoup some of that from FEMA.
Right, so the survey, we had a very quick turnaround on ours. So our survey was due last Friday.
Oh.
So we found what we could and we did that. And they are coming tomorrow.
Okay,
So they, you know, they've already evaluated all of Orange County. How they evaluated everything that fell off those cliffs is beyond me, but they did.
okay.
They did Putnam already and they are doing Yorktown, Ossining Peekskill tomorrow.
Okay, got it.
And the survey that I was announcing is for our residents that took any damage
Right.
to be able to fill it out, and that will add to the total pie. I think we've already gotten to the threshold, which was a little over $4 million for all of Westchester County to be included in the disaster declared area.
Right.
I believe that we've met that, but that's what FEMA's here to look at, to make sure that there's enough to include Westchester, Putnam, Shrub Oak by itself did it, Orange, you know, Highland Falls did it all by themselves. And so the other counties have already met their thresholds for damage and need for help. And Westchester is just completing that with us tomorrow and over the next week. But the residents should also,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah, we have it on the website. We have it on the update last Friday. We have it, well, here. And I put it on Facebook and
Okay.
our Assemblywoman, Dana Livenberg is posting it.
Okay.
Pete Harcum is posting it.
Okay.
So we are, you know, trying as best we can to get it out there.
Yep.
It was on the news.
Okay.
Questions?
Good idea. It's the areas that's needed.
Oh. All right, Pete, I thank you. You were out there right after the storm and probably during the storm. And Paul, you know, you were at Old Albany Post Road before I even knew about it, you know, assessing the damage and, you know, I don't know how you got the engineers to come to us, you know, so quickly, but appreciate it. I know the two of you have your little ways. And you know, I'm sure the residents appreciate, you know, being able to access their houses and not worrying about that washing out. That was a pretty impressive washout, which I had pictures of for FEMA.
Supervisor,
Yes.
only because you mentioned it, I will tell you that we utilized the county's emergency response contractor to come out there. So, you know, FEMA is as administrative as they are, they're very interested in procurement policies. So that's why we don't just call in anybody. Either we'll use our annual bidder, or in this case, we use one of the county's annual bidders to come there and help with the response, because there are some things that are just outside the scope of what we can do in-house, and it's nice to have those assets to us. So yeah, it was nice that they responded so quickly after a storm like that, but we do have the administrative ends covered too on FEMA when they look back at this in 2 or 3 years and they want to know, well, how did you call them? Did they pay prevailing wage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? We'll have those ducks in order too.
I really appreciate that because I just signed off on the project from a decade ago, so they have a lot of questions. And we answered them. So anyway, thank you both for joining us. And thank you, board, for, being willing to look into, and if any of our residents have damage or see damage to the town roads or town parks that we, for some reason, didn't see, please let us know. And with that, I'm gonna say thank you and good night. And we will see you at the concert series. We will adjourn to executive session
Thanks, guys.
for contracts, personnel, and advice of counsel.
Thanks.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.